Hey guys, and welcome to season 4 of the Yes People podcast. I'm your host Savia Rocks, and in this season, we get to remember and reminisce back in time with some of our guests like...
Hey, we are Entity,
and you're listening to
the Us People podcast
with Savia Rocks.
Hey, my name is Stephen Ridley, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with the lovely Savia Rocks, keeping it positive.
Hi, my name is James Green. I'm a TV presenter, sports reporter and journalist.
Hi, this is Joy Langley, and I'm the author of Navigating Stress.
Hey, this is Travis Glossop. I am a creative radio producer for Kiss FM, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
We highlight the strengths of our cultures, talking about diversity and inclusion, and speaking out loud and proud about who we are.
I was never that good. I was determined. I had a love for the sport, and that always fueled me.
But arriving into London and kind of growing up in a really difficult situation, trying to kind of make sense of my life with with at home and not being accepted by the people around me, because there was, in the 60s, there was tremendous racism growing up in London.
It's great. I'm glad, because I'll be honest, I didn't really work that hard at uni, so it was good to leave uni and really get on it, really because I also, as a person, I think I value productivity. A lot of people live to work. I think I am one of the work to live guys, but because my work is amazing, that's all right with me. So as a person, I go to bed happy when I've had a productive day.
We've also saved the best till last by honouring another artist and showcasing their talent as our new theme song, with none other than your host, Savia Rocks, featuring in their song. So guys, enjoy, stay creative, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Let's go.
Peace of mind, gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People Show. I'm your host Savia Rocks, and today I am abundantly humbled to have Tony DADA here with me, who is the founder and CEO at DADA Academy. Tony, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Us People Show. How are you?
I am so good. It's so good to be alive. Can you feel the vibe?
I can feel the vibe. Even when we was talking just before the show, the vibe was there, and it's a nice vibe. It's like a really ambient energy there, and just having a conversation previously, we know that this is going to be a good one, so I'm going to love this. So Tony, my first question for you is, could you tell me a bit about yourself, where you grew up, but also how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
Okay, well, that's a great question, and of course we haven't planned this, so we're just gonna roll with the questions. So I grew up in South London, in Wandsworth, the borough of Wandsworth to be precise, and I grew up in a time when, unfortunately, there was a lot of racism, and we know, but what's not often talked about was the conflict between Africans and Jamaicans.
That's very true.
And I got caught up in the middle of that. So I was a minority in a minority kind of minority. It was crazy. And that was important because it meant that there was a lot of turbulence in my life. At home, there was a disconnect in the sense that my parents were from Nigeria. And so I was the oldest here in the UK. So my parents didn't know how to teach the culture, how to bring the culture. And I didn't appreciate the culture because this was all I knew, the UK. Yeah, so there was problems at home. And then there was problems outside of the home because of this war, between Africans and Jamaicans. And so that's really important because it made me come to an awareness that I felt like I was just in the wrong place. Like, so I made myself intentionally homeless in pursuit of my purpose, because those forces drove me to, like, I need to go find myself, And 6 months after I did that, I made that move. I met someone who became my spiritual mentor and is still my mentor to this day. So that story played an important part in my my life journey. And of course, the beautiful thing about it is now, like 40 years later, because it was literally 40 years ago. I know I'm kind of giving my age away a little bit, but it's cool because I've seen how, like, humanity's grown out of ignorance. Like, some of my best friends are from the Caribbean. Do you know what I mean? And we just had to grow and evolve to that sense of truth and awareness.
See, I know that because even going through it, is my cousin is actually half Nigerian and half Jamaican.
Oh wow! There you go. Like,
and we have this discussion all the time about this, and it still goes on. I know that time has passed, but this type of conversation still goes on. And even when you're talking about, making yourself intentionally homeless, when I think of it, you've done it for a reason and a purpose.
Absolutely. Savia, it was about, I was in pursuit of peace, happiness, and purpose. Those, I was very clear about, why I was setting out, and it didn't make sense. And when I think back, it doesn't make sense. But I think there was an awareness. I think it was my soul knew that it was time. Does that make sense? So it didn't make any logical sense, but on a soul level, it was just the thing to do.
Sometimes when you're put in a really vulnerable position, it makes you see your strength.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm, because of my journey with my spiritual mentor, I look back and I recognize that we all have the choice of how we want to operate. So we can operate from a physical perspective where there's no thought given to our actions, or we can operate from that thoughtfulness where we think about and we consider and then we respond instead of reacting. Or ultimately we can operate from our higher state of consciousness, whereby on a soul level, you just get a directive, an inclination that this is what you must do. And there's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't make logical sense. But when you take that move, then the understanding comes later.
Yeah.
And that's really how I want to operate, because your higher consciousness is way more intelligent than your brain.
That is so true. That is definitely true. So my next question will kind of tally in to what we've been previously just talking about. So can you define yourself as a person, but also who do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, has there ever been a time where you have looked in the mirror, Tony, and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to go from a person that you did not necessarily want to be to becoming the positive, or finding your peace, as you said, and being the person that you know that you could become and evolve to be?
Wow, that was more than one question. You cheated.
I know.
So, in truth, I mean, I've always wanted to be me. I've never not wanted to be me. But I think the journey was about self-discovery. Mm-hmm. Who am I? I believe that the Most High, the Creator, has created and placed all of our treasures inside of us.
Yes.
And we have to go on a journey of self-discovery. Yeah. And although that's an inward journey, how we come to that awareness is through things that we do, things that we say, how we interact with others. And then we do the self-reflection and think, you know what, that didn't really honor me, or that wasn't me at my best. And so that's how we grow. So for me, that's what it's been, a journey of self-discovery. But I was always conscious. So I'd be having conversations with people like 40 years ago and talking about this stuff, and they'd be looking at me like I'm crazy, But now here we are. It's a thing that everyone is, well, there are large sections of society and communities that embrace this way of being.
Yes.
And so the lesson for me there is, when I'm mentoring, coaching, and working with people, I'm saying you need to be a little bit crazy. In fact, you need to be a lot crazy, because if you're not appear to be crazy, then you're not dreaming big enough. Because 40 years ago, I was perceived as like, you know what, this guy's he's not with it. But fortunately, I aligned with my mentor, and he kept me on the path. Like, I knew I wasn't crazy, because some of the stuff he was showing me, it was just different from the conditioning that majority of us had gone through by way of the educational system. Does that make sense?
Yes,
And
it sure
society
does.
generally. Yeah.
It sure does make sense. I definitely know that. They say that someone said to me, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've lost that ability. And I say that because, when I look, and for me, this has been a journey of self-discovery, but it's also been an experiment. I literally have kind of used my life to test these ideas and theories that I've picked up along the way. And I'm convinced that for many of us, we've kind of been set up. Society's been designed to keep you small.
That's true.
And my mission and my focus for the last 30 years or so has been really to nurture and invest and support and empower entrepreneurial talent, to let people see that you are far more than you realize that you are. So,
I love the fact that you said that. That makes total sense to me. Let's talk about you being the founder and the CEO of the academy that you own. How did all that first of all start for you?
well, that's a great question, really. So I was 40 years ago with my spiritual mentor, and just trying to learn a lot of stuff from him as a young teenager. And then after about 10 years, I found myself homeless again. But this time, I had a relationship and 2 children, and in one day I lost everything. And I mentioned that because it was definitely the most traumatic period of my life. But in that moment and in that period, what came to my mind was the idea, this thing that my mentor had said to me once. And he said, it doesn't matter what happens to you. What matters is how you respond. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if this is the universe's way of putting me to the test as a scientist, to say, okay, you've got 10 years of theory. Now you're going to do the practicals, and let's see how you show up. So that's really where the journey started. In that, without any money and resources, what I wanted to do, my vision was to create a platform for those who did not have a voice.
Yes.
As a singer, songwriter, and a lover of music, I started I put on an event with no money, with no resources. I just cut deals with the venue, the leaflet designer, the band, the DJ, like just cut deals literally, and said, look, I'll get you this, I'll get you that. And before we knew it, we had a night, and the night was just dope. And within 6 weeks, we sold out. We had to move to another venue. And that's how the journey began. My organization was called Urban Voice, not for profit.
Yes.
Providing the voice for the voiceless. And for that, I kind of just took all of my pain and my anger and my frustration as to what had happened to me, and the fact that I was estranged from my children, and that they had no say in the whole matter, and neither did I. I put all of that energy into something that I loved. and loved passionately.
Mm.
And it was just amazing to see within a short space of time that project began to grow. And then I established a not-for-profit organization because I could see I was making an impact, but it wasn't, the business side of things wasn't working. So someone suggested I set up a not-for-profit. I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I said, look, let's go with it, because what do I got to lose? And then within a few months of submitting our first application to the Arts Council, we got a check for £75,000.
See,
and the journey just began. We then began to receive funding from all manner of organizations, and our flagship program became like an X factor for Man on Road, literally across the country, Birmingham, Manchester, Nottingham, and Leeds. And it was just amazing. It gave me the opportunity to meet some amazing, talented people way before their success, their careers took off. A young Leona Lewis, Alexandra Berg, JLS. It was just amazing. Mega Man from Soul Solid, Swiss. I really felt like I was Puff Daddy on my council estate in Wandsworth. Like
you most probably was, to be honest. You just didn't know.
We were just making a difference, and so that's how the journey began. And through that, I was approached by one of the biggest colleges in South London, South Thames College, because they were beginning to see we were making waves, and they asked me they needed some creativity. They needed to create a department for creatives, and they didn't know how to do it. And so they asked me if I would come and help them. So I said, yeah, because I wanted to also understand education. Mm-hmm. So I took up the role, and within 6 months, I got them the status they needed. We were involved, or I got them to be part of the Prince's Trust back at that time. Well, they were trying to they wanted to stage an urban music festival. And they did. It was the biggest at the time, I think 2006, 2007. So Jay-Z and Beyonce all took part. And I was able to get the college to get involved in that project. And so as a result, the funders were like, okay, you got this guy over there just making it work. So they got their contract was like for £500,000. Mm-hmm. I mention all of that because whilst I was there and having pulled off that project, not only did I get the college at that urban music festival, but I also got Apple involved in a significant way. And so the CEO then at the time, or the head of Apple UK, they've then called a meeting because he wanted to, like, who is this guy that just pulled this off? And so we had a one-to-one, man-to-man, just speaking about education and, how industry and how his sector was growing, and a lack of skills coming through the educational system to meet the employer needs, because that was my role, meeting with employers in the creative sector like him, head of Apple, head of L'Oreal, and a few others. And that's where the idea came from. So long story, but in that conversation with him, he made me understand that it is not all about a degree. And I'm like, wow, because he asked the question. He said, if I had two people in front of me, one with a degree and one with a passion for computing, who would I employ? And I said, the guy with the degree. And
the one with the passion.
Right. And that was when the idea came into my mind of the Dada Success Academy, where we would be able to teach people to identify their gifts, their talents, and their abilities, and harness that into fuel that with their passion, harness it into a product or a skill or a service, and gift it to the world. So
that's an awesome story.
Yeah,
that is definitely also. Well, one thing I do want to talk about is mindsets. Mindset plays an important part in our lives. how important is our mindset today in the world? Personally, professionally, or in business life, as well as being creative and finding our purpose. What would you say your mindset should or should not be? Because let me hit you with both should and should not be when it comes to having a mindset.
Well, the mindset is everything, and it's a word that is bantered around a lot. But for me, I take it deep and look at it also from a spiritual perspective, in as much as, everything that we do actually happens twice. If you think about it, if you really were able to slow things down, every action that you do, you first of all see it in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
So it happens twice. And so it's really important that we understand how our mind operates. Now, because this is something I've been looking and studying for, decades, what I've come to realize is that the way of the untrained mind will never bring you to success. So what do I mean then? I mean that until we begin to engage in disciplining our mind and understanding how our minds were designed to work,
Yeah.
then we'll always be short of what we truly are. And I think this whole thing runs really deep. For me, your mind is about it's I talk about and teach about what I call the masculine mind and the feminine mind.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, someone who has a masculine mindset is very linear in their thinking style. And I believe it's the era that we're moving away from. And what I mean by that is it potentially is very analytical, very dogmatic. It's like in business, it's winner takes all. Like I'm gonna do anything I can to get the deal, and I don't care about you. Like I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And it's about the numbers. It's unemotional. It's clinical, and that's what it is. Now, the feminine mind is more creative. It is more inclusive. It's more embracive. It's more nurturing. And in business, it's win-win scenario. And so what I do when I'm working with people is help them to identify where they are at. Because I'm not saying either one is good or bad. That's how the creators made us. But do we know this? And do we understand ourselves in terms of how our minds work? And do we have a vision to operate in a holistic way, which is what is called the wise mind, the balance between the two? But it's always vision first and then goals. Whereas we've often been taught, here we are, the new year is about to be upon us, and everyone will be like, I'm setting new goals. I'm saying that's the last thing that you should do, because it's the vision that has the power, and the vision allows you. And I know we're kind of going deep, but I feel the vibe.
That. No, that's the vibe. Yep.
The vision allows you to connect with the mind of the creator, so you can get a vision, a glimpse of the vision that the creator had for your life. I want to start there and then bring that into my being, and then use my masculine mind to figure out, okay, what steps do I need to take that's going to move me closer to my vision?
See, that makes total. So you've basically broken down for me, because I was going to ask you about creativity and visionaries, and you've literally just broken that down for me. But if I was to say, who would you say influenced you as a creative visionary in your life, or a person that you look up to? Who would you tell me?
Well, I mean, definitely my spiritual mentor, because he's a man I've observed for over 40 years,
Yeah.
thereabouts, who has held this vision. And so imagine 40 years ago, an African man talking and teaching yoga and martial arts and herbalism and spirituality as a different thing to Christianity. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just way ahead of his time, and he stuck to it. And then I remember in 2006, he was at a conference in America, and he was approached by Rhonda Byrne, and they became really good friends. And she immediately just took to him and gave him copies of The Secret, which he then gave to me, and then I introduced it into the UK. And I say all of that to say that this is what happens when you're a visionary. Like, even Rhonda Byrne at the time, people thought she was crazy. But guess what? She raised 6 mil and then created this thing that then went on to, the last time I checked, generated over 60 million. So
Yep.
must have been doing something right. So it's people like that that I like to focus on my attention with. In 2010, I was in Ghana with my spiritual mentor and hooked up with Michael Beckwith from The Secret, who has become, a good friend of mine. And I just see that visionaries are never quite understood at the time. And the question is, will you hold on to your vision, or will you give in? And that was made clear to me very recently. So, once I started the path, as I mentioned, with my music events and working with young people for 20 years, through the not-for-profit organization, I found it very difficult because, as a creative visionary, I didn't realize it at the time that I was ahead. And so at the time, the only way you could operate was if you had a charity, and I didn't want to have a charity because I heard it had so much constraints. And the alternative was a not-for-profit organization. I didn't know what it was, but I said, let's go that route. But as a not-for-profit at that time, you couldn't be the founder and CEO and get paid. So I had to relinquish, my directorship to other people who I had to entrust so that I could work on it. Was just a crazy scenario. And unfortunately, over time, what happened as we started to access more and more funding and help more and more young people across the country, I began to realize that people had a different agenda, and it kind of broke my heart. And
Yeah. That one.
people started just moving shady and stuff. So I'm like, okay. And then there was a few things that happened, and I was like, no, let's not do this. Now, fast forward to this year, I then find out that you have things like CICs now.
Yes, there you. Yep.
The government recognized that there were people like me who were in no man's land. So a CIC works. But not only that, I found out that the government has now caught up to this vision that I've had, that it's we, visionaries, creatives, who are going to make a difference in our communities, not government. And so government have put aside like crazy money, billions of pounds, for organizations such as those that I've just described to actually do the work. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, as a visionary, this is what I was saying 20 years ago. So I'm back in that space, and I'm really excited because now I've been able to meet some amazing people whose hearts are in the right place.
Yeah.
We're just looking to build a network so that we can access the funding for particularly people from our communities, because one of the things I found is, although there's billions of pounds available, a lot of our people actually don't know how to access the funding.
I'm going to say that.
So that's my vision and my mission for next year. We're looking to build a network of 100 social entrepreneurs and support them. I have people who are experts in funding and that sort of thing, just to help them navigate the space. So for me, back then, I was trying to make my thing work for 10 years before I set up as a not-for-profit organization. And within 6 months of setting up as a not-for-profit organization, doing the work, but just having the knowledge to use a different structure, business structure, we were able to have impact across the country. And so I know that there are so many people who, because I'm talking to people, and you've probably seen, like that the growth of entrepreneurialism in the last decade has just been off the chain.
Yeah.
So how about now niching down and really looking to support those people who are social entrepreneurs so that they can really make a difference? Because they're a slightly different breed to the traditional entrepreneur. It's not just about the money for them. Do you know what I mean?
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
And they can sometimes find themselves in a tricky situation because social entrepreneurs, they'll give away their last £10.
Yes, so true. I'm one of them. Yep.
And we need to learn the balance of that, because, and I'm saying it because I've done it. You know, you give everything that you have away, then you how are you gonna do your thing? It's about having that balance. So it has to be a sustainable model. It has to make money, but it also can be fueled by your passion and your vision and your impact, your social impact.
Can you break down for me what a social entrepreneur is? I know you said it briefly, but just so people can understand it, like you said, can you break down the difference between a normal business person, for example, who is an entrepreneur, and a social entrepreneur?
Okay. So by my definition, a social entrepreneur is someone who making an impact in society is what drives them.
Okay.
You know, they might see a situation like homelessness, and you know, from a heartfelt point of view, they feel like they want to do something about that to alleviate homelessness, as opposed to just going and buying a product wholesale and then putting your margin on it and selling it. Now, ain't nothing wrong with that, but I think you will agree with me, when we look at the world today, there is a desperate need for humanity to evolve and rise.
Oh, yeah.
The only way that I believe is going to happen, well, I think the way that that's going to be enhanced is through social entrepreneurs stepping up and standing up and making a difference in different areas of community. Of community. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So, you know, I have a team of holistic mentors that specialize in different areas. Some, you know, are very passionate about young girls who are experiencing teenage pregnancy, you know, and they give them that support. Some are passionate about homelessness. Some are passionate about money management or the lack of it. It's for us to find our passion and our purpose, package it, and then bring it as a gift to the world. So that's my definition of a social entrepreneur versus an entrepreneur. Now, I take it one step further and I talk about the conscious social entrepreneur. So last month, we staged the first ever Conscious Social Entrepreneurs Conference as a celebration of the 10-year relationship that I've had with NatWest Bank. And it's an interesting journey. So 10 years ago, when I started working, when I began to collaborate with NatWest, I was using language that even I was like, how are they letting me use this kind of language, consciousness in the bank? Yeah. But I was conscious and I was determined to take that stand because as a visionary, I was like, if my hunch is right, they're going to catch up. Yeah. 10 years later, they were fine with it because they now have data that supports the idea that there is a growing trend of entrepreneurs starting a business that has a social impact set front and center of mind. And so we staged the conference and it was amazing. It was amazing. And it was a big gamble, but that's what visionaries have to be.
Exactly.
You know? It was a big gamble, but we practically sold out. And it gave me the proof to say, I ain't crazy. There are a bunch of people out there who feel the same way like me. And we were able to come together on this day. And yeah, it was just amazing. So that's now given me the confidence and the focus and the evidence to say to NatWest, see, there are people like this. And so we're actually designing a pilot program, which are, I'd love for anyone that's tuning in who wants to find out more to participate in. But we're looking at designing a 12-week program for social entrepreneurs who are, starting out in business, scaling or starting out and wanting to scale to like 100,000. Learn about consciousness, mindset, that ability to tune into your true purpose and then live it through your business, as well as access to learning about the funding pots that are around and available to us. And then the third element would be the business element, which NatWest would be delivering in terms of different aspects of business. And so I'm really excited about that because that's different, that's unique. And as I said, next year, my focus is to engage 100 people on that program so that we begin to build a network. Could you just imagine what a network of 100 social entrepreneurs might be able to do by way of social impact in our communities? And we've got people all over the country, from Ireland, Wales, Cardiff, London, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Coventry. So you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, sure do. I definitely sure do. So one of the questions I do want to ask you is, rather than people saying what they can get from their business, how can you teach them how to serve their business uniquely and differently to customers? Because in doing so, they have a unique selling point about their business. How do you can teach them to do that?
Well, we do teach them, or we demonstrate a different way. So, did you know that the true meaning, the original meaning of entrepreneur actually has nothing to do with money? It actually means to possess, to take ownership.
Yes.
And so why am I saying that? Because what our philosophy is that to be a true entrepreneur, you have to possess all of who you are. Your mind, your health, your relationships, your gifts, your talents, your belief systems. You have to take ownership. And when you do, it brings you to a place of self-discovery.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you've got to that place of now beginning this journey of self-discovery, you see the world differently. You see yourself differently. Now, if that brings you to a place where you want to build a business, then the truth of the matter is your business is actually just a reflection of who you are.
Yes.
So you don't serve your business. You be your business. You are your business. So when you do that, two people can be selling the same product. One, the person who is embodying his product versus the person who's just selling his product, who do you think is going to get, who's going to attract business? Because I'm going to want to do business with him just because of who he is. And I, even if it means I have to drive past the other guy to get to that store. And that's what we teach. That's the philosophy that we're on. And I believe it makes a difference.
Well, they always say, someone said to me, 50% of someone investing in you, they invest in you as a person.
Absolutely. That's why the conference that we had was called Business, Money, and You.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because those three elements are so crucial. But what we made people come to the awareness of by the end of the day, you know, some people were like, I need to get some money. I need to get some funding. Money has its place. And some people are like, I want to start a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. That also has its place. But the most valuable asset is you.
Exactly.
Because when you got that together, it will attract the money, because investors will want to give you money, as I was able to demonstrate through our not-for-profit organization.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been able to attract funding. Sometimes even I'm surprised, like, how you do that. But I've come to understand that when you can embody, like, you know, when it's not just trying to do business, but you embody, you believe it wholeheartedly, mind, body, and soul, you just vibrate on a different energy, a different frequency, and people feel that. It's more authentic.
Yes.
And I believe that's where the world is going.
That's the word. And a lot more people are becoming spiritually aware.
Absolutely. So for me, as a visionary, I'm like, look, basic business principle tells you that anyone who can see a trend coming before everyone else and makes the first move stands a good chance of being able to have a significant piece of the market. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is where I believe we are heading. And so I've made my position clear. And so we're looking to support those people who are a little crazy like me, you know. They want to make a difference. But my track record demonstrates that as crazy as you might see, as crazy as you might think what I'm saying, you've enjoyed or been entertained by many people that, you know, I have supported, nurtured along the way before they came on TV.
Yeah.
So and consistently. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just now want to do that in business to help social entrepreneurs. And don't get me wrong, we ain't excluding anyone, but just because I've traveled this road as a social entrepreneur for 30 plus years, I know it. You know, I know it. It's good parts, it's bad parts, and I can help someone collapse time and just not make some of the mistakes that I made, or some of the errors, I should say, that I made.
I find them lessons. I don't see them as errors in your life, Tony. I see them as authentic lessons that you carry with you.
Absolutely.
And you can
Absolutely. For
else.
me, I'm like you. I learn best by, like, let me play with it, and you know, if I have to break it, yeah. So for me, it was my authentic journey and lesson. But in learning that lesson, if I know that by you taking that left turn, it's going to take you a year to come back to the same position,
yeah,
then I can just say to you, I don't think you should go down that road, because this is what's waiting for you at the end. Do you understand? And then you can make it, you make your choice. Only because I can say I went there and that's what I found.
Yep.
You know?
Definitely. So talk to me about how important diversity and inclusion is when it comes to having a business and being a social entrepreneur, because this plays an important part. one thing I do love seeing, I love seeing different cultures being able to start a business all over the world. But how do you believe diversity and inclusion is helping the world to see things from a different perspective?
Well, I used the example when I was talking about growing up and the challenges that I experienced between Africans and West Indians, right?
Yes.
Well, that's diversity right there. In as much as, okay, you might be different from me, you might have a different background or culture, but I want to be conscious, and through consciousness, I I I raise above the senses. Do you understand? Just because my eyes show me that, you're different, then I'm going to treat you different. But actually, the essence of you might be just, I mean, we are on the same vibe. So diversity plays a massive part. And I think the challenge is for us as individuals to be able to lead ourselves to a place of higher conscious awareness.
Yes.
We can see and recognize that inside of everybody is a soul. Yeah. And I want to, back in the day we had that group Soul to Soul.
Yes.
Right. That's where I'm coming from. Yeah. If we can connect on that level, it's a wrap. And I'm blessed because I have some people around me, in the academy who we connect like that. And what I love about my work now is everyone that's in my team were previously on one of our programs. Like I either mentored them or coached them, but we've grown, and now some of them are working, alongside me because they get the vision and they want to be part of that legacy building process that we're creating. So diversity is everything. I think people who practice unconscious bias lack that ability to see at that higher level of consciousness. And so it's for those of us who are operating from that level to help them see what they can't see, because they're missing a trick. If you have in your team, if you lack diversity, whether it's whatever, all male or whatever, you're closed to a whole section of possibilities. I'll give you an example. When I was talking to you about that festival that the Princess Trust Urban Music Festival that they wanted to do, back in 2006, I observed an amazing way in which they found out how to put on that concert. You know what they did? They came to our organization, and they went to a few other organizations, and they asked, can we speak to the young people?
I see. That's where it starts.
So they didn't dictate. They acknowledged the diversity. They came to the people who they could learn from, and they learned and they listened. And based on what they were shown from these diverse young people, they then built the Urban Music Festival around that. So I'm saying, in your workforce, if you don't have diversity, and if you're not listening to your diverse teams, and you're not respecting that everyone has a unique and different perspective, that's bad for business, in my opinion.
It definitely is. You talk about, one thing that you talk about is, you spoke about music. We've been speaking about music through this conversation. So if I was to turn to you, Tony, and say, if there was one song that was a soundtrack of your life, what song would you tell me and why?
That's a great song. The great song would be, it would have to be this song by Dennis Brown. Love and hate can never be friends. Won't know. Listen now. Here I come with love and not hate. And that would have to be the song, because why? That when I left home, I didn't realize it until years later. But that song I used to sing every single day whilst I was homeless, not realizing that I was singing a prayer every day, praying that only love would be attracted to me and that only goodness would follow me, and that I wasn't wanting to be in the company of any enemy. And I'm like, wow, so that would have to be the song.
No, that's a perfect song. So if I was to turn around and say to you, if there was one quote that represented you as a person, what quote would you choose? And why would you choose that particular quote?
The quote that I love at the moment that resonates with my soul is a quote that I got from my spiritual mentor, which says that I am a unit of life here to evolve through service for the promotion of life.
That makes abundant sense to me.
So
that makes abundant sense to me. So I know when we were in the beginning of our conversation, you spoke slightly about peace, but I wanted to get slightly deeper into it. So if I was to say to you, when was the last time you felt totally at peace with yourself, Tony, what would you say to me?
Totally at peace. I would say about a year ago.
Okay.
So this personal journey of self-discovery, there's different levels, and you graduate from one and then you go into the next class. And so about a year ago, I graduated. Like, I took an exam, I failed, and then I had to come again and pass. And I believe that I passed. And so it's given me a sense of peace in terms of recognizing, like, I am 100% sold out for this is me. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I was born to do. And yeah, ain't nothing else. And so with that awareness, it's like whatever it takes to create this platform, this network for social entrepreneurs, whatever it takes, we're building it by the grace of the Most High.
Yep, and it's working. Every bit of it is working. So this is where I turn around and I say to you, I would love for everyone to be able to find you on all your social medias or anywhere where you would like people to be able to find you. Tony, where can we find you?
Well, my LinkedIn and Instagram is Tony Biola DADA. But I'd love to connect with social entrepreneurs. And so if there's any social entrepreneurs, we've said that we are looking for 100 social entrepreneurs to join this program that we are creating that will allow you to take your conscious awareness to another level in terms of redefining and clearly defining your purpose, and then using that to create your business and your product or your service, and then learn how to tap into funding so you can be more expansive. If that's you, then I'd like to invite people to visit www.dadanetwork.com, where you can either register and just join our mailing list, but more importantly, I think there is a masterclass that I did just a few days ago, where we were talking about my vision in more detail. And so if anyone's really interested and wanting to find more before they commit, it's a few pounds. It's like, I think, a $5, but it will give you an opportunity to watch that recording, and then you really get to see what our vision is and the impact that we want to make on the planet. And then if you like what you hear, then you can complete an expression of interest form so that we can be in touch. We can reach out to you in terms of joining the DADA network.
Guys, you need to join. If you are a social entrepreneur or someone who feels the vision inside you, but it hasn't come out of you just yet.
Exactly.
I hope that this ignited the flame in you so that you can believe in your ability to shine, and don't listen to anyone else. People are always going to have their say on what they feel or think you should do. This has to come from you as an individual, where you go on the website, fill it out, do whatever you need to do so you can elevate yourself and become the person that you want to be, but not just for you, for other people who are the next generation. And just go and do it. Tony?
So, once again, it's www.dadanetwork, DADA network.com. Come connect with us, and let's see if we can help take you to that next level where you get to live on your terms.
Yes. It's so important to be able to do that, Tony. This is where I say thank you so much for coming on the Us People show. It has been a superb show where you have shown me your compassion, your kindness, your honesty, where you have grown up, but how that has influenced you to be the inspirational person who you are today, and to help people in the world understand that they are not alone and that you can achieve anything you want with perseverance, with evolving your conscious mind, with having the right team around you, but most of all, believing in your ability. Thank you so much, Tony.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been great.
Oh, thank you so much. And guys, this is where I want to thank you for watching and listening to the Us People show. And please remember, you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also listen to us on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock on Heart Songs Live at 9 p.m. And also tune in to the Us People podcast, which is aired every Tuesday for you. You can also go to the Savia Rocks website, which is www.savia.rocks, and also go to www.uspeoplepodcast.com. Guys, thank you so much for listening again. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Take care.
Peace of mind, peace of mind. I need a solution. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with her. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with confusion. Yeah, I'm done. I need a solution. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind.
People say that having a peace of mind is trying to find a consistency of calmness within ourselves, to crave for a clarity that drives us through our emotional journey of life, to never let a person's judgment manifest into a fear inside of us, learning to believe in our ability to shine through the darkest moments and tunnels when we cannot see the light. Patience being our light for forgiveness and strength, to believe in our destiny. If you want real peace of mind, one needs to stop fighting their inner thoughts and embrace them with love, because love is the most amazing and beautiful strength that we have to conquer our peace of mind. Make your thoughts impact a nation by keeping them true and honest, especially to yourself. But make your peace of mind protect you when you don't have strength to embrace anything else. Find your peace of mind by listening to your heart.
Peace of mind, gotta keep my energy in peace of mind. I protect my energy in peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy in peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy in peace of mind. I protect my energy in peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy in peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta